Hello everybody and welcome to another Transmission Wine. Thank you again for joining me. Today we're looking once again at the lovely and interesting products to come from Porsche. In particular, we're looking at one of the most hotly debated cars that they've had for the last 20 years, the 911 GT3. The GT3's evolved in many different ways and it's gone from being a sort of hardcore track day car to the ultimate collector item and really been everything in between. Once upon a time, the GT3 was the kind of car that many people admired from afar but few actually wanted to buy, and now people will do terrible things to those that they love to be able to get on the dealer's waiting list to maybe be told they quite possibly perhaps could be able to buy another car that may maybe get them into the chance of being on the list for getting a GT3, maybe possibly. So, you've seen the title of the video. I think there is a very good chance that the next GT3, the 992.1 GT3, could be the first 911 to have a hybrid powertrain. Now there's an equally good chance that it won't do at all, but I don't think this is a random thought. There are a few very good reasons for it. Allow me to explain. So, what's the problem? Because the hybrid thing is a solution to a problem. What's the problem? Well, the GT3 is one of those cars that must be measured, and its performance must always be greater than that of which came before. There is absolutely no way you could sugarcoat it. If the new GT3 came out and was slower than the old one, that simply wouldn't be good enough. The other side of this is the fact that the GT department, Andreas Preuninger, really love the naturally aspirated engine. The GT's power plant is one of the greatest. Full stop. No excuses needed for it. It's absolutely sensational. And losing that will be a great loss, not just to the company, but the car world in general. So they need to do absolutely everything they can to keep a hold of it. But you've also got the issue of the regular 992, the Carrera 2S, GTS. They are turbocharged. They have been for some time, but they're getting seriously very fast. And here's the basic issue. The GT3 as it was putting out around 500 horsepower from a naturally aspirated 4-litre engine. That's a lot. That's a very highly strung power plant, and every single extra horse got out of that engine does not come easily or willingly. It's not like a turbo or supercharged unit where you can simply just turn up the boost and hey presto, more power. It doesn't work that way. Think about 525 horsepower is the most they've extracted from it so far, and that really is an extremely highly strung thing, especially for a road car. But the 992 is also heavier than the outgoing 991, which means that to keep even the same power to weight ratio, you need quite a bit more power out that engine, and I don't really think they're likely to grow it much beyond 4 litres. I'm sure you probably could, but you may lose that buzzy top-end high red line, and you may also come into other problems as well. There are many reasons, usually financial, for Porsche wanting to cap the capacity in their cars at about 4 litres. It wouldn't make any sense, I think, for them to say, yeah, it's going to be a 4.3 or a 4.5 now. It's not to say that it's impossible, but I think it's extremely unlikely. And so, very simply, how do you get a lot more power out of an engine whilst keeping it naturally aspirated, not making it larger, and thereby keeping the performance that the model is famous for? Well, I think the only option is going to be to hybridize it. They're not going to supercharge it. I mean, that in the past maybe would have been a solution that would have worked, but it's just not going to happen. Porsche just don't do that. It's just not going to go. And so I think hybrid makes a lot of sense. Now, hybrid makes super sense because everybody knows that the 992 was developed from the ground up to take hybrid power. There is the space in the chassis for a hybrid system. There is the capacity in the 8-speed PDK gearbox to take the extra grunt that a hybrid system will have. Nobody's especially clear as to why no other 911 has been hybridized so far. There's one possibility which says that they were having trouble getting the system working, and there's a few reasons why you might have that. Other people said, well, they could just get the power they needed out of the engines as it was, and that's what they've said for the turbo. Look, they could get the powers they needed without having to hybrid it, so that's fine. But the GT3 really should be naturally aspirated. It really should have that buzzy engine, but clearly needs help. Porsche have fun with this, of course. 918. They even did it with, do you remember this? The 911 GT3 R hybrid with the crazy flywheel setup that it had in it. And GT3s have always had something of a racing connection. You've also got this idea that perhaps GT department would be the best people to give the hybrid tech to. That means that when 992.2 comes out, if more models in the range are going to be hybrid, it would make a lot of sense. It would just work. It really is the only solution that I see out of this problem. I mean, things get worse with an naturally aspirated engine on its own when you look at the fact that 992 is heavier, and then it's not simply a case of just making the engine a bit more powerful. You also have to make it more powerful in the face of ever tightening and ever more restrictive regulations on noise, emission, everything else. I just don't see how the GT3 can be anything other than that, because I don't see them being able to suddenly say, yeah, it's 600 horsepower now, we've found another 75 horses down the back of the sofa in Stuttgart. It's not going to happen, is it? Not very likely. So that is my simple reasoning as to why I think the GT3 could be the first hybrid 911. And if it is, I think that's something to be very, very excited about, and hopefully that'll allow similar makers to sort of keep naturally aspirated engines, or maybe even go back to them in some cases, because I don't think turbocharging has maybe been the sort of magic bullet that a lot of people hoped it would be in terms of getting extra power with lower emissions at the same time. So who knows? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I'm right? Please, let's discuss it in the comments down below. Thank you for listening as always, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.